What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode on my channel. As always, I'm Jay, and today, guys, with the last day of the 2018 calendar year, I finally have a chance to give you my thoughts on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And guys, it took me a little while to go see this. I had no chances to go and see this, unfortunately, in 3D, which I really wanted to because I heard that it was even more of a feast for the eyes. But guys, I do have plenty to talk about because this film was amazing, every pun intended. And guys, before I get into it, just be aware that I will be having some spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen the film and if that bothers you, you've been warned. But without further ado, let's jump into Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So guys, initially when I heard that they were making a separate animated Spider-Man film, I had no idea what to expect. I even thought, oh god, another one of these, Sony's just trying to milk it, especially when you have Avi Arad's name with any Marvel property that isn't with Marvel Studios. I always feel like he's been the bitter guy who felt like he always lost his job and the best paycheck in the world to Kevin Feige, who's producing, and Man with the Plan attitude has always been better. But going into this and hearing the title and everything, I was slightly disinterested, like I said. But as soon as I got the first glimpse of it and a little bit of footage with Venom and whatnot, I was like, whoa, what's going on with this? Not only was it the Lord Miller team from the Lego Movie, which was their last animated endeavor that I watched, which was completely amazing. The art style, it was like halftones and comic panels, and it was just a lot of stuff coming at you. And guys, I have to say, they did an amazing job with this film. The animators and everyone behind the scenes did a fantastic job because this film looks great, and it is one of my favorite animated films this year. So the plot of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is exactly what you think it is. It's about Spider-Men from different worlds coming together, and Spider-Women, that is. And the whole premise is that the Kingpin of the Ultimate Spider-Man universe is trying to basically create a rift between universes for his own plans and needs, basically. And what happens is this involves a young man named Miles Morales, who many of you might know as the Ultimate Spider-Man, who took over after Peter Parker had died fighting numerous villains in the original run of the comics, written by Brian Michael Bendis. And the thing is they took a lot of liberties because they had his whole entire origin really be centered around this whole issue which occurred with the universes shifting and whatnot. But going to this, what happens is he and the Spider-Man of that universe, the original Spider-Man, Peter Parker, cross paths as Spider-Man's fighting the Green Goblin and other villains, trying to stop the Kingpin from actually using the bridge between dimensions. And in his universe, his Spider-Man, who was Peter Parker, is a blonde, voiced by Chris Pine, which I thought was a nice little surprise, and they had a lot of silliness. They had a lot of callbacks to the Raimi films, including the silly dancing scene and whatnot. And then they threw in Christmas albums and weird stuff like that, which just got a good chuckle out of me in the theater. Long story short, he gets killed. He also saves Miles in the process and whatnot. And Miles actually had already been bitten by a spider, much similar to Peter's incident. So as this is going on, basically a rift comes through different dimensions, and Peter B. Parker of a universe more like the comics, but kind of a little bit more downtrodden, comes through, and he is basically forced to mentor Miles into becoming his own Spider-Man with the help of other Spider-Men and women who had also come through because of this whole shattering of dimensions, if you will. So the story, guys, I think the story was very well done, and the changes that they took and the liberties that they did with Miles' story especially, and the different things that they brought in here, including making a Spider-Man who was kind of like the washed-up spider guy, as it were. I thought those were very cool little things that they did, and very much the aesthetics and whatnot were awesome. It did look like a comic book come to life. I mean, it was a great balance of, 3D animation looking like 2D animation at a lot of points, and there was a lot of fun laughs. Shamik Moore was awesome as Miles. Then you had Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, which was hilarious. Like I said, Chris Pine as Peter Parker of that alternate universe. Then you have Haley Steinfeld as Spider-Gwen. Then you had Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir. And then, oh man, it was just awesome. Then you included little novelty things like the appearance of Spider-Ham. And I'm not too familiar with Penny Parker, but she was a welcome addition as well. And how can you forget to mention the cameo of Stan Lee? Like many Marvel films going back quite a while. But this one was especially important and significant because obviously Stan had passed away not too long ago, and this is one of his final cameos that he had put into the film. And, you know, in the context of the film, his cameo was actually supposed to be very silly and funny, but the things that he said and the way that the line was and everything was very eerie and very much so kind of a little bit heartbreaking because, one, it was Stanley, but then two, because what he said, it always fits eventually, talking about the hero suit or the costume that Miles was trying to buy to kind of become the next Spider-Man, as it were. And speaking of costumes, I love the fact that the aesthetics for each of the Spider-Men were so different, and each of them kind of had traits of their own universe. And one of the things I really liked was the way that they adapted Miles' Spider-Man costume. I mean, what happened is, in this film, you know, in this continuity, he's done a lot of art, he does a lot of graffiti and likes to do different things like that. So when it comes time for him to make his own Spider-Man costume, he ends up spray painting the design and everything. And I thought that that looked a lot more striking. And I liked the fact that it wasn't so clean and symmetrical like the comic ended up being in the Ultimate series. And guys, the way that they depicted the villains in this weren't too bad. Obviously, the Green Goblin in this, Norman, is not as descriptive as he was. Mahershala Ali did a little guest voicing for Aaron Davis, aka the Prowler. And the Kingpin, I don't know who voiced him, but I feel like the Kingpin in this film was definitely not a Kingpin that we're used to. He was slightly sympathetic, but with that going on, and then with the Daredevil show going on and whatnot, totally different scope. And before I forget to mention, the post-credit scene alone was worth the price of admission, because it actually does something with one of my favorite Spider-Men, which is Spider-Man 2099 Miguel O'Hara. And basically the whole scene is setting up him actually having developed a multiverse time jumper, kind of dimension jumper or whatever it is, watch with Layla, his AI, and he jumps into Spider-Man 67, and what happens is they actually made him into a 1967 Spider-Man cartoon style cartoon character, put him into the cell animation, and had him do the whole pointing meme with the other Spider-Man talking back and forth. It was some of the best comedy I've ever seen, and it was hilarious. The film is fantastic, amazing, spectacular. Any other Spider-Man adjective you want to throw in there, it is definitely that. And I can't wait to see what they do. Definitely go to it. If you're thinking about bringing your kids, it's a fantastic film, like I said, and I can't stop spewing. I'm gushing over this film like I do many reviews, but this film really does do justice to Spider-Man's heart and spirit and soul, and it has a lot of fun, humor, there's a lot of cool action and everything, and the animation is damn near immaculate and flawless. It's a great time to be had for the entire family, and you won't regret taking your family to go see it, or seeing it with a loved one in general. And guys, I definitely give this one 3.8 out of 5 stars. It's definitely a cut above for different animations that I've seen in a while. And guys, there's nothing really else to say about it. It's a great film. Definitely go and see it before it gets out of theaters. I would only recommend, if possible, to try and see it in 3D because it's recommended to me. I didn't get a chance to, and I really wish I had. But anyway, guys, that's all the time that I have for today. Like I said, do go out and check out the movie. It's worth your time, for sure. And guys, since this is most likely going to be my last review before the new year comes in, thank you guys so much for your support and all the subscribers who've subscribed to me over this past year. I thank you so much for building my audience, and hopefully 2019 is an even greater year for me, for you guys. I'm having a lot more content and a lot more ideas flowing through my head that I can hopefully get out to you guys, and hopefully you guys are going to dig it, man. I really appreciate it. But anyway, guys, like I said, that's all the time that I have for today, and until next time, guys, as always, I'm Jay. Take care. Bye.